Hi everybody, it's me, Curry T, and in this video I want to talk about why it took me so long to manifest my relationship that I'm in now and my specific person. So lots of you already know that it was 7 years from when I met my specific person to when we actually ended up in a relationship that works. And I wanted to clear some things up about that because there's been some comments that have been getting a little bit confusing. Lots of you have seen my story that I posted about 9 months ago now, when I told you about how I manifested my specific person. And that video was filmed in Italy, and what I was talking about in that video was that time period of me being in Italy, those sort of 9 months that it took really, while I was really consciously manifesting. But before that, there was lots of other things that happened. We met in 2014, and at that time, I didn't know anything about manifesting. I actually didn't know anything about it. I knew that I kind of trusted the universe, and that was my spiritual kind of way. I trusted the universe, but I was not in tune at all with my own self-concept, the way that I was showing up, and I really had no idea about how my own patterns and my childhood and my programming was affecting the way that I was showing up and the way that I thought about myself and my self-concept and how that was impacting me and my relationships. I just had no idea about any of that. So that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? That lots of things happened that were kind of like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for so many years. And then in that time as well, you know, I gave up many times on thinking that we'd be together because the circumstances looked really awful. You know, like he was at the other side of the world many times. I was living in Australia for 2 years. So in that time, I knew he existed. I knew I had a very, very, very strong connection to him, but I didn't know about conscious manifesting, and I didn't know about the healing that I needed to do to be able to show up in any relationship where I could make it work. So that was the difference. So in the time that we were apart, from like 2015 to 2019, lots of things happened. You know, life just kind of got on, and I was like any other person. I was thinking, why doesn't he want me? And I was thinking all of these negative things. I was always thinking there's always something in the way of us. There's always a reason why we can't be together. And that was the story that I had. And the story was that he always left. And the story was that people always left me. And the story was that I just never felt good enough. And the story was that relationships just never worked for me. And so this was just what I experienced over and over and over again, including with him, even though my connection with him was just incredibly strong. So I had things that I needed to work on. I had trauma within myself that I needed to resolve. I had anxiety that was so strong for so many years and was completely clouding my vision. And I really had not come across the ideas of self-concept or anything like that. And equally, he was reflecting back the same thing to me, that he wasn't ready, that he saw me as the one, but in the future, and that he didn't feel good enough for me. And it really didn't seem like he was ready for any type of commitment, not just with me, but with really anyone. And I was always so frustrated about that. I always used to think, well, if he feels such a strong connection to me, which I know he does, then why doesn't he do anything about it? Maybe he doesn't feel that. These are the sorts of things that I tell myself. But actually, when I look at it, I wasn't ready either. I wasn't ready. I wasn't able to commit because I wasn't able to commit to myself. I kept betraying myself again and again and again. And then my relationships kept betraying me. That's just what happened. And so I needed to work on myself, and equally I feel like there was things that he needed to work on within himself. So in 2018, I'd say, I had an awareness of the law of attraction, and I knew about manifestation. I felt like I'd manifested a lot of things at that point, but I didn't know about it in the depth and with the knowledge that I do now. And so I did manifest lots of things. I manifested being with him and his family at Christmas. I manifested us walking down a particular street and taking a photo together there. I manifested things that I wanted to hear him say. I manifested him video calling me, because he never used to call me ever, ever, ever. He only used to just message me on Messenger, and our entire relationship existed on Facebook Messenger for like years and years and years and years. So I manifested him video calling me instead of just messaging me, and us meeting up and us actually being together. But my self-concept was just nowhere near ready, and he wasn't ready either to look at the things within himself that might affect his relationships. Oh, and I should just say, before we actually got together after all those years apart, I had just been like a normal person, thinking, well, this relationship isn't working, even though I feel this very, very strong connection to him, it's not working. And I wanted to have a boyfriend because I'd never had one. I was 27, 28, and I'd never had a boyfriend. Well, not since I was like 17. So I felt like I wanted to experience having a boyfriend, even though I had these very strong feelings for Johnny. He was nowhere near me. He was living in Cambodia at that point, and I just thought, okay, I need to let that go. I need to just focus on myself, get on with my life, and what will be will be. And that's how I thought about it. So I moved on as much as was emotionally possible. I moved on, put him to the back of my mind, and was in another relationship with someone else, and that lasted 1.5 years. In that relationship, of course, I thought about Johnny sometimes, but for the majority of the time, he was in the back of my mind. So when I broke up with the other guy that I was with, which was, by the way, a very good thing that I had that relationship, because it taught me so much. It taught me so much about myself in relationships. It started to teach me about my anxiety. It started to teach me about my attachment style. It started to make me look at my relationship with my dad and how that might have affected me. And it taught me so much. It started the process of healing, which was so necessary. So that needed to happen. And I see that as a really valuable part of my journey. So when we broke up, me and Johnny got in contact again. And it was just like, it was a few years after we'd seen each other, so it was like exciting, but nothing came of it. And it was like that for a while. Then we were together in 2018 to 2019 for only 2 months, and it was tragic. It ended tragically. It was horrible. And after that, I just thought, right, I have to just focus on myself and feel better. And I knew that I could manifest him at this point. At this point, I knew that manifestation was a thing. I knew that I'd manifested so many things already. I still hadn't learned that much about self-concept, but I was starting to learn it. But mostly I was focused on doing my master's degree, feeling better about myself, and just having a good time, earning money and just getting on with things. And I was having a great time, and relationships were honestly the last thing on my mind. So it wasn't until the end of my master's degree that we got in touch again, and he messaged me to say he missed me, and that he was sorry, and that he really wanted to speak to me. And the first time he messaged me, I ignored him. I just didn't know what to do with that. And I wasn't trying to manifest him. I just didn't know what to do with that. I knew that I had a very strong connection to him still, and I still kept having this image in my head of me walking through his front door. I kept having that, even though on one hand I was thinking we'll never be together again, and on the other hand my brain was saying you're going to walk through his door again. And I was confused by that, because I didn't know at the time, wasn't focused on creating a relationship at all. Anyway, that then led eventually, because he messaged me again, to us talking again. And this time I was a bit more open to it. I had healed all the pain from the past. I had learnt so much about myself. I'd learnt about self-concept at this point, but not enough. So we started speaking again. I was feeling great about myself. I just won the Outstanding Student Award for my master's degree in songwriting. I was just, feeling really, really good. Started speaking again, and it led to us meeting up, which was just before he was going to Korea, and we knew that he was going to Korea. So that was my story. He always leaves. I hadn't worked on that. I hadn't worked on the story that he always leaves, and I hadn't changed that. So, we met up, and then of course that story was the reality. He went to Korea. And it was the furthest away he could have gone. So that was just retelling my old story. At this point, I went hard on learning about manifestation, because we spent so much time together. What was supposed to be 2 days became 5 weeks, and in that time I thought, oh my God, this connection is just not going anywhere, and we just have to sort it out. We have to figure out what this is. And I just went hard on learning about manifestation, learning about how I was affecting, learning about how my self-concept was affecting the way I was showing up in the relationship, learning about how my beliefs were affecting the way I was showing up in a relationship, and learning about how that was impacting the way he was showing up. And I just learned so much. And at this point, honestly, I was trying to manifest him not going to Korea, and it didn't work. And I just had to let that go. I had to let him just go. And I just said to him, go, just go. That's what's meant to happen. Off you go. And, it was difficult because we were still talking and we were still saying, I love you and all of this, but we weren't officially together. So that was really confusing for me. And like many of you know, and I know some of you find this quite triggering, that at some point I did say to him, no, I just go and do your thing. I can't do this. I don't want to be, in this blurry no man's land of not knowing if we're committed, not knowing what's going to happen, saying I love you, being half in, half out, 1 foot in the door. That wasn't for me. It wasn't working for me. My self-concept had improved to the point where I felt good about saying no to that story. I felt good about saying I can't talk to you when this is the situation, because it's undermining the value that I have for the love that we've got. And I don't want to undervalue what we've got. I don't want to undervalue this connection. It's more than what we're acting like now. So that's what I said. And then so we didn't talk. In that time from when we stopped talking, which was about, it was Boxing Day 2020, until about the 4th of May. Yeah, it was the 4th of May. So that's not that long. So really, in the grand scheme of things, that isn't very long, is it? And in that time, it just felt like forever. And I was doing everything I could. I learned everything I could about manifesting. I went to coaching. I dug out some old beliefs. I dug out some old energetic wounds that I had in there. I dug out stuff, and I cried and I cried and I talked it out, and I really went hard on my self-concept and the stories that I was telling myself about myself in relationships and about him and about us. One of the biggest changes was me telling myself, there is nothing in between us now. There is no reason why we can't be together. There is no reason why we can't be together. We're together now. It's easy. It's done. I kept saying that. And I also kept saying relationships are easy for me. I changed the story about me. I changed the story about us. And I changed the story about him. He is so ready to commit to me now. There's nothing he won't do to commit to me. And I started saying this, and I started day by day believing it a bit more. And at first I did not believe it at all, because in my reality, that was the opposite of what I could see. In fact, I couldn't see anything because he was so far away. So in answer to my original question, why did it take so long? It took that long because for most of the time that we were apart since we met, I wasn't doing the work, and I wasn't conscious enough to be able to show up differently whenever we started speaking again. And so our relationship always fell apart because I wasn't able to change the story, and I wasn't able to adjust the way I felt about myself. I was just blaming him for years. I was just blaming him not showing up for me. And I felt like a victim. And I was just living in that mindset for years and years and years. And it was a real upheaval from when I started learning about conscious manifestation to when it actually happened. It was such an upheaval to learn that stuff, to teach myself a new way of thinking and feeling and being. And I was not perfect in any way. There was no way that I was perfect, but there was a massive difference in how I was before to what I was doing then. I was saturating my mind with good things about myself. I was reminding myself how powerful I was. I was telling myself again and again a new story about me and love. I was telling myself a new story about me and him. And I was just completely turning the whole thing around so that it was what I wanted it to be. And so, you know, in the grand scheme of things, from when we last spoke on Boxing Day to May is not really a long time, is it? But it feels like a long time, doesn't it? It feels like such a long time when nothing's happening. But things that helped me was just thinking, you know what? Everything's happening in my favour all the time, and there is nothing I need to do. There's nothing I need to do. It's already done. The only thing that I want to do is really work on the way that I feel in relationships, because I realised that was all me. That was all me. It wasn't anything to do with him. So I really wanted to do that for myself. And I wanted to feel more secure. So I kept affirming to myself that I felt secure. And yeah, like I say, in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't that long. And I remember always thinking, why is it taking so long? And why is nothing changing for me? But it felt like it had been, I guess it felt like it had been a long time because of the months before that. You know, all in all, I guess it had been from like September or even August in 2020 until May, until it actually worked. And when I was really consciously doing the work. But what I would say is that it doesn't need to take you as long as it took me. I mean, 7 years for a relationship to come together is a ridiculously long time. But I see it as a blessing, because I see that those years that we had apart, those relationships that we both had with other people, taught us so much about ourselves. And it made me really sure about how I feel about him, and him really sure about how he feels about me, you know. And also our connection has stood the test of time. That's what you've got to remember as well. Like, you're still connected to this person because you're still connected to them. And that's amazing. Your connection is still there. When you meet again, it will be like no time has passed at all. And that's what it was like for me as well. It was like we saw each other yesterday. It was amazing. And that is the amazing thing about these connections, aren't they? They're timeless. They last forever. They are amazing. And so don't worry about time or how long it takes. And that is one mindset that I really did have as well. Like, okay, I don't know if it's going to happen now or in 5 years. Honest to God, I don't know. But I do know that at some point we will meet again and something will happen. And in between, whatever the fuck happens in between, I don't care. I don't care. That was meant to be. It was all meant to be. That's the mindset that I had. And also, when we did start speaking again, I did say to myself, like, okay, maybe he'll come towards me this time. Maybe he won't. Maybe he's ready now. Maybe he isn't. I'm not going to take any single thing that he does or doesn't do as a reflection on how he feels about me or my worth. There is nothing he can do to make me feel less worthy anymore. And before, that wasn't the case. I'd always been so reliant and codependent on what he did or what he said or how he showed up for me and stuff. And that changed. That was a big, big shift. So I hope that this video has been helpful. If you would like some coaching, if you'd like some help digging out your belief systems and changing them and just someone to keep you on track, then please let me know. I'll leave the information about how you can book a session with me below. And if not, then I will see you in the next video. Bye.